This video depicts topics of violence, murder, and death and is not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Here's the brief definition of genocide as established by the United Nations in 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. As such, 1. Killing members of the group, 2. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, 3. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, 4. Imposing measures intended to prevent birth within the group, and 5. Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. This definition serves as the international legal standard for identifying and prosecuting instances of genocide. The Armenian Genocide, also known as the Armenian Holocaust, was a systematic extermination of the Armenian population by the Ottoman Empire during World War I and its aftermath from 1915 to 1923. It resulted in the deaths of an estimated 1.5 million Armenians, as well as the displacement and forced deportation of many others. Here are some of the key details about the Armenian genocide. The Armenian population has been subjugated to discrimination and persecution within the Ottoman Empire for centuries. However, tensions escalated during the late 19th and early 20th centuries as nationalist movements began to gain momentum in the region. On April 24, 1915, the Ottoman government arrested and executed hundreds of Armenian intellectuals and community leaders in Constantinople, now Istanbul, marking the beginning of the genocide. This date is commemorated annually as the Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. Over the following years, Armenian civilians were forcibly removed from their homes and relocated to desolate regions, primarily the Syrian desert. Many were subjugated to brutal conditions, including starvation, dehydration, and exposure to extreme temperatures. Additionally, massacres were carried out across the empire, with civilians often being killed en masse. Despite the widespread reports of atrocities, the international community largely failed to intervene or hold the Ottoman government accountable. Some nations, such as the United States and France, condemned the genocide, but no significant action was taken to stop it. After the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the establishment of the Republic of Turkey in 1923, the Turkish government consistently denied the Armenian genocide, instead characterizing the events as a consequence of wartime conditions and eternal strife. This denial remains a contentious issue in international relations as strained Turkey's relations with Armenia and other countries that recognize the genocide. Many countries and international organizations, including the European Parliament, the Vatican, and numerous individual nations, have officially recognized the Armenian genocide. However, several countries, including Turkey and Azerbaijan, continue to dispute the events as genocide. The Armenian genocide remains a deeply significant and emotional issue for Armenians worldwide, as well as a focal point for discussions on human rights, genocide prevention, and historical justice. The Armenian Turkish conflict of 1919 and 1921 occurred in the aftermath of World War I and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. Here's just a brief description of some of the key details about this period. Following World War I, the Ottoman Empire, which had been one of the central powers, was defeated. The empire was in a state of disarray, and various ethnic and national groups within the borders sought independence or autonomy. The conflict was deeply influenced by the Armenian genocide, which occurred during World War I from 1950 to 1923. The Armenian population within the Ottoman Empire was subjugated to mass deportation, killings, and other atrocities by the Ottoman government, resulting in the deaths and of an estimated of 1.5 million Armenians. In 1920, the Treaty of Sèvres was signed between the Allied powers and the Ottoman Empire, which included provisions for the establishment of an independent Armenian state in parts of eastern Anatolia. However, the treaty was never fully implemented due to various factors, including the Turkish War of Independence. In response to the Treaty of Sèvres, and the occupation of Turkish territories by Allied forces, including Armenia, Turkish nationalist movements led by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk initiated the Turkish War of Independence in 1919. The conflict aimed to resist foreign occupation and maintain Turkish territorial integrity. During the Turkish War of Independence, there were clashes between Armenian forces and Turkish nationalists in eastern Anatolia. The Armenians sought to establish an independent state in the region, while the Turks aimed to maintain control over their territories. The conflict between Armenia and Turkey was part of the broader Turkish War of Independence, which concluded with the signing of the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. The treaty replaced the Treaty of Sèvres and recognized the sovereignty of the Republic of Turkey while making no provisions for an independent Armenian state. The Armenian Turkish conflict of 1919 to 1921, along with the Armenian genocide, continues to be a significant point of contention between Armenians and Turks. The events of this period have deeply impacted relations between the two nations and have contributed to ongoing disputes over historical memory, territorial claims, and, of course, diplomatic recognition. The Armenian Turkish conflict, which began in 1988 and continues to some extent today, primarily revolves around the historical grievances stemming from the Armenian genocide and the territorial disputes related to the Nagorno Karabakh region. Here's a brief presentation of some of the key details about this conflict. The conflict's origin can be traced back to the territorial disputes over Nagorno Karabakh, a predominantly ethnic Armenian region within Azerbaijan. In 1988, the local government in Nagorno Karabakh voted to secede from Azerbaijan and join Armenia, sparking violence between the ethnic Armenians and the Azeris. Another significant aspect of the conflict is the Armenian demand for international recognition of the Armenian genocide perpetrated by the Ottoman Empire. Turkey's denial of the genocide has been a major point of contention between the two countries and has influenced their diplomatic relations. Armenia and Turkey have had a strained diplomatic relations due to the issues such as the Armenian genocide recognition, territorial disputes, and support for opposing sides in regional conflicts. Turkey's close relationship with Azerbaijan also has contributed to tensions with Armenia. In 1993, Turkey closed its borders with Armenia in support of Azerbaijan during the Nagorno Karabakh War. The closed border has had significant economic repercussions for Armenia, limiting its trade routes and access to international markets. Despite the ongoing tensions, there have been significant attempts at reconciliation between Armenia and Turkey. In 2009, the two countries signed protocols aimed at establishing diplomatic relationships and opening their borders. However, these protocols were never ratified and have since been abandoned. The conflict has been periodically escalation has had, sorry, periodic escalations, particularly during flare ups in the Nagorno Karabakh region. In 2020, a 6 week war erupted between Armenia and Azerbaijan over Nagorno Karabakh, resulted in significant casualties and territorial changes. Turkey openly supported Azerbaijan during the conflict, further straining its relations with Armenia. Overall, the Armenian Turkish conflicts remains unresolved with deep-rooted historical, territorial, and geopolitical issues contributing to ongoing tensions between the two countries. Efforts at reconciliation have been hindered by various factors, including the lack of progress on key issues such as the Armenian genocide recognition and the Nagorno Karabakh dispute. One of the key figures central to the Armenian genocide is Talat Pasha, who played a significant role in orchestrating and implementing the genocide as one of the leaders of the Ottoman Empire during World War I. Here's a brief biography of Talat Pasha. Mehmet Talat Pasha, also known as Mehmet Talat Bey, after the 1918 Ottoman Empire abolition of honorifics, was born on September 1st, 1874, in Kirkali, the Ottoman Empire, present day Bulgaria. He received his education in Istanbul and initially worked as a postal clerk before becoming involved in politics. Talat Pasha rose to prominence with the Committee of Union and Progress (CUP), also known as the Young Turks, a national political party that came to power in the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century. He served in various government positions, including Minister of the Interior and later Grand Vizier or Prime Minister of the Ottoman Empire. As Minister of the Interior, Talat Pasha played a central role in planning and execution of the Armenian genocide, which began in 1915. He issued orders for the deportation and extermination of the Armenian population, leading to the deaths of an estimated 1.5 million Armenians. Talash, Pasha was a key architect of the genocidal policies coordinated with other leaders of the CUP to implement systematic killings, forced marches, and mass deportation of Armenians from their ancestral lands. Following the defeat of the Ottoman Empire in World War I and the fall of the CUP government, Talat Pasha fled to Germany in exile. However, after 1921, he was sentenced to death in absentia by a Turkish court martial for his role in the Armenian genocide. On March 15, 1921, Talat Pasha was assassinated in Berlin by Soghomon Tehranian, an Armenian survivor seeking revenge for the genocide. Talat Pasha remains a controversial figure in Turkish and Armenian history. While some in Turkey view him as a nationalistic hero and statesman, many Armenians and others consider him a perpetrator of a genocide. His role in the Armenian genocide has been extensively documented by historians and remains a subject of debate and condemnation in international discussions on genocide recognition and human rights. Talat Pasha's actions during the Armenian genocide and his subsequent assassination illustrate the enduring impact of this dark period in history and the ongoing quest for justice and reconciliation. One of the key figures central in the Armenian Turkish conflict from 1988 onwards is Livan Petrosyan, who played a significant role in the Armenian politics during this period. Here's a brief but comprehensive biography of Livan Petrosyan. Levanter Petrosyan was born on January 9, 1945, in Aleppo, Syria, to Armenian parents who had fled the Armenian genocide. He later moved to the Soviet Armenia with his family in 1946. Ter Petrosyan studied history at the Yerevan State University, where he later became a professor. He emerged as a prominent dissident intellectual during the Soviet era, advocating for democratic reforms and Armenian nationalism. He played a key role in the Karabakh Committee, a group that campaigned for the reunification of the Nagorno Karabakh with Armenia. With the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Ter Petrosyan played a crucial role in the Armenian independence movement. He was one of the leaders of the movement that led the declaration of Armenians' independence on September 21st, 1991. Ter Petrosyan became the first president of Armenia on October 16th, 1991, following his victory in the presidential elections. He served as president until his resignation in 1998. Ter Petrosyan's presidency was marked by the Nagorno Karabakh conflict, which intensified in the late 1980s and early 1990s. He pursued a policy of compromise and negotiation with Azerbaijan, seeking a peaceful resolution to the conflict. In 1994, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Nagorno Karabakh signed a ceasefire agreement mediated by Russia, effectively ending the active phase of the conflict. Ter Petrosyan's presidency was marred by controversy, particularly regarding his handling of the Nagorno Karabakh conflict and the allegations of electoral fraud. He resigned from presidency in 1998 amid protests and internal political pressure. Despite his resignation, Ter remained active in Armenian politics, leading the Armenian National Congress (ANC), an opposition movement. He ran for president again in 2008 but was defeated amid allegations of electoral fraud again. The disputed election results sparked mass protests known as the 2008 Armenian presidential election protests, which were violently suppressed by the government. Livan Ter remains a significant figure in Armenian politics, known for his role in the Armenian independence movements and his efforts to resolve the Nagorno Karabakh conflict through diplomacy. His presidency and subsequent political career have left a lasting impact on Armenian politics and society, shaping debates on democracy, nationalism, and foreign policy in the country. Levon Patrician's political career intersects with the Armenian Turkish conflict, particularly regarding his efforts to address the Nagorno Karabakh issue and his advocacy for Armenian interests in the region.